All right, y'all. It is still August the 11th, and I believe this is the last segment of an extremely long story leading up to, devastation or whatever in my life, and why it is I don't see my daughter. And this is going to hopefully be the last segment. Hopefully, I can sum it up in this last round because it's been taking me all day. I mean, right now, for example, it's 9 o'clock at night, and I started recording around 2 o'clock or something like that. Okay, so it's taking me a long time. I can't wait to get this done, and hopefully, I can just wrap it all up with y'all here. And for those who sat through this whole thing, God bless you, dude. Like, I mean, it's a long, long story. All right. We left off, and of course, my wife, or obviously my ex-wife, told me she don't never want to see me again. Right, which that obviously would be a complication because if she's never gonna see me again, how would I see my daughter again? Right, that led me to be completely numb, and I blacked out the rest of that day. Right, I actually forgot to mention um, the specific reason why I smashed my phone. All right. I forgot to mention that. I thought I would bring that up real quick, and I'll bring up something else real quick before I sum up what happens next. All right. The reason I wound up smashing my phone is because I was devastated to not see my wife on our anniversary. Right. That was another devastating blow and stuff like that. Um, I wind up. Uh, I wind up spending Christmas. This was after the anniversary. Got delivered a devastating blow on Christmas Eve, and then I realized I've been texting nobody this whole time. I've been trying to contact and nothing. All right. I tried to meet my wife on our anniversary. That's Christmas Eve, and nothing. All right. Completely devastated. Okay. And so on Christmas, obviously the worst Christmas I ever had. I wind up just totally isolating myself from everybody. I'm living at my mom's house and stuff, but just isolating myself. And I hadn't explained that I'd actually been sleeping outside. Like stuff is wrong. Stuff is wrong with me at that point. Sleeping outside, sleeping in the backyard with my dogs who happen to be there too as well. Um, in the backyard of my mom's house and stuff. Basically, for the most part, living out there. All right, just deep in the throes of depression and desperation and stuff like that. And on Christmas Day, I actually spend the whole day by myself, just walking around town. As you can imagine, people are celebrating Christmas and doing their own thing, and it's just like the streets are quiet. There's no businesses going and doing anything at that particular time. It's Christmas and stuff, and I'm just walking through the streets, just wandering around aimlessly and stuff, all by myself. Everybody's celebrating and doing their own thing, by themselves, all right, or to their own. I'm here, I'm isolated by myself on Christmas, just walking around. And I forgot to mention also, I'm going to mention briefly that I got into tattooing myself over these months. Um, it became very therapeutic. I bought like a tattoo kit, and I just made a habit of tattooing myself. Like, for example, I don't know if you can see because the lighting's bad, but I have all sort of tattoos on my arms and stuff. That's just me tattooing on myself, right? And I have some tattoos on my legs and stuff too. Um, I know that came out of left field and stuff, but on that Christmas, the day after complete total devastation, on that Christmas, I'm totally isolated by myself. I actually wind up coming back to my mom's house where there's nobody there and stuff, all right, because they're off celebrating Christmas and stuff. And I wind up tattooing this particular tattoo that you've never seen on my stomach and stuff, and I'll wind up showing it to y'all, all right? Um, just so that you get an idea of how devastated I was on Christmas. I'm tattooing my own stomach, all right? And it's very awkward, but I'll wind up showing y'all at some point. Um, I'm just totally devastated. totally devastated, completely isolated, right? And it was the day afterwards, December the 26th, in which I get a text message. This is why I wound up smashing my phone. I get a text message from my wife, my ex-wife's stepmother, right? Who we never had a real good relationship, anyways. I get a text message from her specifically on my phone, wishing me and my family a happy holidays. All right, so if you're piecing that together, that's an extremely backhanded thing to do from her stepmother. All right, and it's at that point that I totally lose it and smash my phone on the ground. All right, I couldn't see any other choice. It's like I'm looking at this message where you're wishing me and my family. Actually, my family, I haven't seen them for months, and you know that full well. And you're wishing me and my family happy holidays. All right, so extremely backhanded. All right, and so I smashed the phone. All right. And just to let you know, I actually didn't have a phone and refused to have a phone for about a year and a half after that. Actually, did not have a phone at all. I didn't want a phone. I had no use for it. I can't even contact my daughter. I can't even contact my wife, who would be my ex-wife. So what's the point of having a phone? Smash it. Just forget about having a phone for about a year and a half. And I won't explain, but after about a year and a half, I wind up having to get a phone. So I do. But I spent a year and a half without a phone and stuff and did not care either way, all right, whether or not I had a phone. I was sick and tired of even looking at the phone and not getting a response. So when I got that response, the day after Christmas about wishing me and my family happy holidays, smash and forget phones. I don't need phones. All right. So then, okay, time goes on, more time goes on, right? And it's really kind of embarrassing. Obviously, I'm pretty embarrassed by this, but I wound up uh, maybe a month or a couple months later uh, quitting my Chinese restaurant job. I've quit and got fired from so many jobs. It's extremely embarrassing, right? So I quit from that Chinese job, and then shortly thereafter, I actually wound up getting another job, which actually paid better. It paid much better. Working at Johnny Carino's, a certain Johnny Carino's establishment on Bandera Point, which, like I said, I was getting a much better pay. Even being a dishwasher at Johnny Carino's, I stepped up my pay, and that's actually, I guess, a positive thing. Okay, um, but just completely, completely out of it, right? But still going through the motions enough to be able to get a job and then go to work every day and stuff like that. Be running to work and stuff and things of that nature. All right. Um, so I'm working at Johnny Carino's as a dishwasher, getting better pay and stuff like that. For a couple of months. I don't remember how many, maybe I really don't remember, maybe 2 or 3 months or so, until I get a call at my work. All right. The management calls me up and says, "Hey, look, this is while I'm at work on a shift," and they say, "Hey, the police department is asking for you." That came out of left field. It's like the police department is asking for me, or like the sheriff's office or something. They were asking for me. I forget which. And I'm like, okay. And so I go to the work phone, and I pick it up, and I'm like, hey, what's going on here? And they tell me, the person on the other end of the phone, like a sheriff's deputy, was like, hey, don't panic right now, all right? We're not coming to arrest you or anything like that. But actually, we're in the back of Johnny Carino's right now. We want you to come out back and meet us discreetly, all right? At that point, it's like, who even cares? It's like, I might as well go back there. Like, everything in my life is in complete shambles, and it has been for months and months, all right? So I was like, forget it. I don't care what they're gonna do. Let me go back and find out what it is they're gonna do to me and stuff. They said, don't panic, just come back. We're gonna need you to come back behind Johnny Carino's where we're waiting for you. And I was like, I might as well. I might as well open this door and find out what's behind this door. So I go back there, and I meet this sheriff's deputy or some sort of police officer, and he's looking at me in a very, very sympathetic way. He's like, listen, I think he calls me bro. I think, if I remember correctly, he said, listen, bro, um, I hate to be the bearer of bad news and stuff. And you could tell he's done this before. And he's like, but I had to serve you these papers. And I was like, what are you talking about? Kind of find out is actually, he's serving me papers because I was being summoned to child, like, what, I don't know what you call it, child custody court. I was being summoned to like for child custody court. You know what I'm saying? And so I see the paper, and you could tell like I'm like what in the world? And he's like, yeah, I know, I completely understand, and I'm sorry to do this to you, man. But here's these papers. You're being summoned to court. And I'm looking at it, and obviously that's kind of like that's not a good thing. Nobody wants to be served papers and stuff. But after a few minutes, I start to realize, oh man, maybe this is an opportunity. They summons me to child custody court, right, or child support court. So obviously now I'm being put on child support, and this is why he was being very sympathetic to me and stuff. He's probably seen it time and time again, and he was like, you're being summoned and stuff, and so that's bad. It's very depressing. But I was like, oh man, child support court, child custody court. Okay, well, that's actually that's actually great news. I figure out it's like, yeah, I have to pay child support, and obviously I don't make much money and stuff like that. So yeah, that is kind of depressing. But at the same time, here's my opportunity. I finally get to see my baby again. I'm going to child custody court and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm going to be issued child support that I'm going to have to pay, but what comes along with that is I'm actually going to get visitation rights with my daughter. And so actually that's relieving news, you know? It's like, oh, finally something's happening. And I'm gonna, of course, I'm gonna have to shell out all sort of money, but whatever, it don't matter. I get to see my daughter finally. This is wonderful. It's wonderful. I can't wait to go to court and have this all figured out. Let's go, and we'll figure out just when I get to see my daughter and stuff like that. All right. I don't want to spend too much time on that particular date as far as child custody court. But okay, just to be real brief, I make it to court obviously early. I'm definitely wanting to get down to some business. All right, finally, and I called Andrea El Nino as soon as I got served, and I was like, look. I got served for child custody, and so that's bad. But you know what? I'm gonna get to see my daughter finally, and it's just so relieving. And so I can't wait for to actually go to court. Right. So I do go to court, and I show up early, and I'm eager. I'm like, okay, I don't know how this works. I don't know what's going on, but obviously I'm going to be able to get to see my daughter soon. It's going to be amazing. All right. And so my wife, she winds up showing up because that's how child custody works. And it's a whole room full of people who all their cases are going to get heard that day, and the judge is going to deliver a decree on what exactly is going to take place. All right. For all these, I'm talking about like 100 different groups of people who that particular day are going to see the judge, and they're going to figure out something. Okay. And I'm sitting there in court, and actually, my wife shows up. This is the first time in many months that I've seen my wife, and she, I don't want to get too sentimental about it, but she's beautiful. She's a sight for sore eyes. It's like, oh man, I've seen my wife after months and stuff. Just to see her, is amazing, and I'm taking it in. I'm just savoring it, and I wave at my wife, obviously because I'm delusional, right? And I wave at her, thinking, okay, maybe she'll come over here and say some words and stuff, and maybe we'll have a small conversation before we go up and see the judge. But that's not the case, actually. She uh, she walks in with her stepmother with her as well, and they both walk in, and they sit like as far away from me as humanly possible. And so I realized, okay, they're not trying to interact with me. So I'll just wait until our case comes up in front of the judge, and then we'll talk, I guess. So I'm waiting, and I'm actually waiting the whole entire day because my case was actually our case is one of the last ones he even gets to. I mean, everybody. I'm there at court for the entire day for like a good 8 9 hours. All right, before my case finally comes up in front of the judge, when me and my wife had to stand in front of the judge. Right. Meanwhile, during this whole time, they've had there's been a little developments, and that I've had people from the court approach me and ask me like, okay, what's my income, this and that. What would I desire to have in this child custody? Like they're asking me these questions, and I let them know my income. I let them know this and that. And they asked me like, ideally, they were like, how much would you like to see your daughter ideally, on an ideal basis? And I let them know as much as possible. All right, I don't care what's the limit, that much. I want to see her that much, whatever is possible. All right, I want to see my daughter as far as the custody and stuff goes, if it's 50-50 or whatever it is. I understand a lot of times it's like every other weekend and stuff, and that's how it works. Whatever, the maximum that y'all can give me, that's what I want. And I let that be known. And this takes all day. And meanwhile, there's recess and there's this and that. I mean, this is taking all day. A number of times, I try to like communicate with my wife. She's like just across the room, if she's even there during recess. Like we all go out to lunch and stuff, and I see them as they're coming back in. My wife and her step mom, and I try to wave at them again, and my ex-wife is doing everything possible just to not even look at me. All right, so it's to give you an idea of what's taking place during child custody court. All right, so we finally get up in front of the judge, and just to make a long story short, he's asking me questions, he's asking Ashley questions, and stuff like that. And God bless her, I don't have nothing against my wife and stuff like that. I'm just trying to do whatever it is I can that I could see my daughter finally. And my wife, she says these things in front of the judge to kind of insinuate that she's scared of me. I, and in certain terms, she's basically saying like she doesn't feel safe around me and stuff like that. And she gave some examples, and actually, she's giving examples basically that, in a sense, or she's making up, or she's taking certain situations and completely embellishing. I'm not calling my wife a liar. I'm just saying, basically, she was lying in front of the judge, right? And I'm just standing there like I don't know what to say. My wife has an attorney standing right by her. I don't have no attorney. It's just me. All right. So my wife's attorney is going through all these like legal jargons and stuff like that. And meanwhile, my wife is kind of painting me out to be very untrustable, very like I should not be around my daughter at all. And I'm very devastated. I like at a certain point I go numb while I'm in front of the judge. Like I don't know what the heck's going on or what to do. And the judge is talking to me all while I'm like barely trying to keep things composed. And okay, at a certain point, he gets to the point where it doesn't take very much convincing, but he's convinced that I am very much to be not trusted. All right, and never have I had any sort of like abuse cases or anything like that, police disturbances and stuff like that, domestic or anything like that. Never. Right? But the judge is pretty sure, yeah, I'm not good and I shouldn't be allowed around my daughter, basically. Especially not by myself and stuff. And so he's trying to figure out how how to make it to where I could possibly see my daughter, right? And so we're trying to figure it out while I'm standing in front of the judge, and he's like, okay, um, you could see your daughter. The thing is, someone's gonna have to be there to make sure that they watch over you, all right, while you see your daughter. I was like, okay, well, what about my family? I guess. What if I get to see my daughter, but say it's at my older brother's house and stuff, and so they'll be there the whole time, and I'm actually not a threat to my daughter, and I never have been. So what about that? And he says, well, that's really not. That's not going to be possible. Basically, is what he lets me know. And then he asked me, well, how about if you could see your daughter? What about you see your daughter, but it's at your ex-wife's step parents' house? What about that? And I was like, I mean, I'd rather actually, it'd be better if they were at my older brother's house while I see my daughter. That way, it won't be so awkward, because obviously I don't have good rapport with my wife's step parents, all right? And we've never had a good relationship, anyways. And I'm letting the judge know. And I made specifically clear. I say I don't find them to be bad people, my wife's step parents, but we don't have a very good relationship. In fact, I feel very awkward around them, stuff like that. And so the judge considers that for a while and stuff, and then he, after a little while, comes up with his decree. Right? He figures out, okay, this is how much you're gonna pay as far as child support from here on out, and also we can let you see your daughter. But he explains to me the only way that you can see your daughter is this: we're gonna put you in a program, and you could see your daughter. I think it was every other Saturday, is what he said. You could see your daughter every other Saturday for 2 hours, and I forget what's the exact time, but if I had to guess, between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., you'll be allowed to see your daughter, right? Obviously insinuating that I'm like a threat to my daughter. So between 2 and 4 p.m., you'll be able to see your daughter. And what's going to take place is your wife is going to take your daughter to a facility, all right, and drop her off there, some sort of government facility in this little program. And you could spend 2 hours every other Saturday with your daughter, and it's going to be under supervision by a government employee, basically. All right. And a lot of people, I can imagine there's so many people out there who would eagerly agree to that. All right. I'm sure that there is a lot of people out there who would. But I had to let the judge know, as desperate as I am to see my daughter, we've always had a perfect relationship. Right? Always. So to reduce our relationship to the point where I can see my daughter, but that's only if we're being supervised by strangers who work for the government, in order to make sure that I don't do something wild. And there is no precedent for that. There's no reason to believe I would do something wild around my daughter. But that was the decree. He's like, this is the only way, right? Your wife will have to drop your daughter off at a facility, and you'll have to be supervised, and you'll have 2 hours every other Saturday. And basically that's an indefinite program. Like, if we decide that you are actually trustable around your daughter, maybe after a while we'll make it less stringent and stuff. Maybe we'll allow you to see your daughter on a more organic level. And with the rest of the brain power that I could possibly summon up, I had to tell him that I can't make that deal. I couldn't possibly go from having pretty much a perfect relationship with my daughter to we had to now only have a relationship for a couple of hours in a facility where we're being watched over by strangers in the government. Believe it or not, that's I can't do that because what that'll do is take our perfect relationship and reduce it to ashes. Like basically, it'll totally destroy it, and I can't have that. I just can't have that. There's got to be another way. And it just says, well, there is no other way. How about that? Either you agree to that or nothing. And as devastated as I was, I had to let him know there's no way I can agree to this. I can't totally ruin our relationship. Me and my daughter, it's just not going to happen. I'm not going to agree to ruining our relationship for here until forever. It's not going to happen. And I let him know, there's got to be some other way. And he said, no, there is no other way. All right, so either you agree to this or you agree to nothing. And I had to let him know I had to agree to nothing. I'm not going to like I said, I'm not going to ruin our relationship. All right, I'm just not going to do it. And they even wound up asking me again, this other employee on the outside, after we get out, like right after he says there is no other way, y'all are basically dismissed, right? Get on out of here. And I wound up talking to someone else. I said, and this is outside of the courtroom, just outside of the courtroom, and I'm saying like, there's got to be some other way. And the guy, he reassures me, it ain't no other way. And so I was like, I had to pass on this. I can't do this. I just can't do this. And he said, well, it is what it is, I guess. And so that is what it is. That's what happened in child support court and stuff. And just to let you know, Alex Jones was actually brought up by my wife, right? In order to kind of like show and prove that I'm crazy, because like I listen to Alex Jones and that's actually a terrible thing. That was brought up in my the Alex Jones's name was brought up during my child custody hearing. All right. So that's kind of wild. Thing is, the judge had no idea who Alex Jones was, so like that was kind of completely over his head. But anyways, he did decide that I'm unfit to be around my daughter unless supervised by the government, and that was pretty well devastating and stuff. And to this day, I haven't seen my wife. And I haven't seen my daughter. I definitely tried to continue to make contact with them, but obviously to no avail. And actually, my wife's kind of disappeared since then. Like I have no idea where she lives and stuff like that. Right? Okay. And then shortly thereafter, I realized that I'm just completely devastated, completely and totally. And about a month or two after that, I realized I can't even stay in San Antonio. I can't even stand to be in San Antonio no more. Because if my daughter is living in San Antonio and so am I'm gonna go crazy. I don't know what the heck to do. I just gotta get out of here. I'm starting to suffocate. I gotta get out of here. And I make arrangements to go and live out in Big Spring. And that's when I moved out to Big Spring, right? And I lived out there for about 3 years and stuff before I wound up coming back to San Antonio. But that's why I moved out to Big Springs. I couldn't handle being in San Antonio anymore. I had to leave out. I had to leave my dogs too because they couldn't come with me and stuff. I never saw my dogs ever again. They gotten rid of after I left for Big Spring. And there's nothing I could do about it. I basically had to leave Big Spring by surprise to Big Spring because um, basically my mom let it be known when I announced, hey, I'm fixing to move over the next couple of months. I announced it to everybody, like my older brother and his family and my mom and everybody all at the same time. I was like, I can't live here anymore, like in San Antonio. It's just not even possible. I'm gonna move out to Big Spring and see if I can't get something going there because like honestly, I'm just devastated. I can't deal with this anymore. And immediately my mom let me know, you can't go nowhere until you get rid of these dogs somehow. You gotta do something with these dogs. And I tried very very hard to see if I could get them located somewhere. It's very difficult. I wasn't finding anyone who could take my dogs. So before I totally just lost my mind, I bought a bus ticket and I just left one day. I didn't tell anybody the day that I was leaving. I just said, I gotta leave soon. And so on the day that I left, I told nobody, and I just got on a bus, a Greyhound bus, and left to Big Spring, right? And then later on, I let people know, hey, I'm not in San Antonio no more. I moved to Big Spring, all right? After I got there, I was like, hey, y'all, I'm not there no more, all right? So I lived in Big Spring for the next 3 years, and just so that we can wrap this up before I run out of memory to make this the last segment. Okay, while I'm in Big Spring, I find out that my family, what I'm saying, my older brother and his extended family had actually seen my daughter a couple of times during these months in which I'm in utter desperation, right? They had seen her at an Autism Speaks march or whatever, or parade or whatever it is they had. And the reason I found that out is because I wound up seeing these selfies from my sister-in-law, my older brother's wife, who they had eventually got married. There's all sort of selfies that took place at the Autism Speaks rally, right? Nobody told me at all that this was going to take place. I didn't find out until I saw the pictures on her Facebook, right? Just so that you know, my sister-in-law has a kind of a habit of posting selfies on her Facebook. They didn't tell me that they saw my daughter without me. That didn't happen. I found out over Facebook through selfies, right? And then I also found out as well that they had actually seen her again around about Christmas, right? While I'm totally devastated. They didn't tell me about that either. Thought they wouldn't tell me. And I wound up seeing actually selfies and stuff at on the Facebook of my daughter, pictures of my daughter and my wife over at my older brother's house during Christmas. Nobody told me, right? During the holidays, nobody told me, right? And it's not that I hold it against them like, oh, we have a grudge forever. I've talked to them after that and everything, here and there, but obviously zero trust for my older brother's family. Just as far as my sister-in-law goes, for y'all and actually my younger brother as well, he wound up seeing my daughter as well. Everybody saw my daughter, to include my father actually saw my daughter at the Autism Speaks rally, and they all have shirts and they wear them from time to time with my daughter's name on them on their Autism Speaks shirts that they got at the rally, and they didn't tell me about it, right? And so obviously, trust is totally out the window. I don't have no trust for them. It's not to say I hold a grudge against them. It's just obviously I don't have no trust for them. But I can explain that after that Christmas, they've also never seen my daughter again. Right, and I know that for a fact because, like I said, my sister-in-law has this kind of a thing where she might not tell you, oh yeah, I'm going to see your daughter, and I know you're desperate to see her, but I'm just not going to tell you. But she does have this nervous tick of having to post selfies on Facebook, right? So if they had seen my daughter ever again, it would have shown up on Facebook, right? And I would have known. But that's the thing, they never seen her again ever. So it's been 4.5 years since they seen her, just like me. My wife disappeared, right? Um, and none of my families have been able to see her. And for the most part, they haven't tried very hard either. As far as I could tell, they've pretty much kind of given up on it, and there's no amount of effort that they're willing to give in order to locate my daughter or see if maybe my daughter and I can have a visit together. Nothing really. They just pretty much forgot about her, and that is what it is, right? And like I said, I don't hold a grudge against them, but obviously there's no trust there as well either, right? I wound up finding over the internet through some tips that actually good friends had gotten to me. And I found out while I was living in Big Spring, a few months into living in the Big Spring, that my wife actually got remarried. All right. very quickly, actually. Shortly after, our separation and subsequent total separation, my wife actually got remarried. All right, and as far as I know, she has had because I've seen pictures. She has had at least one other child, right? And just so that you know, it's a surprise ending, but she got married to her high school flame, right? Who, as you can piece together, she probably had, an affair with, at least on that particular night, that one night where she didn't come home till 4 during his bachelor party for his wedding, right? So soak that in a little bit. I'm not talking bad about my wife, and I'm not going to go and say, "Oh, look at, oh, can you believe that? Can you believe she would do this?" I'm just saying that is what happened. And full disclosure, that is what happened, right? So I guess during the bachelor party, they wound up having an affair. You would assume, and then he wound up breaking off his marriage in order for them to get married, right? And for them to start having building a family and stuff, right? So, I mean, as far as I could tell, he's probably now playing the father role to my daughter, right? As amazing as that sounds, that's what he's probably doing, as far as I could tell. But also, I can't tell anything because I can't find them. They totally disappeared off of social networks. Nobody contacts me. There's no way to get in contact with them. I've sent letters to places where they might be. You know what I'm saying? They disappeared. I don't know where they're at. I can't talk to anybody who does know where they're at and have them tell me where they're at. Right? They've disappeared. Right? Meanwhile, I didn't really explain this completely, but meanwhile, I had to explain that I don't have trust for the legal system. Obviously, they couldn't give a damn less, right? It's all business as usual or whatever, and it really doesn't matter as far as father-daughter relationships or this and that. Like, that doesn't mean anything, right? So as far as, and people have given me the advice, oh, you should get a lawyer. Oh, you should like sue your wife and stuff, and find a lawyer to figure out where she is, and do all sort of legal proceedings. I don't have trust for the legal system at all, not at all. And here's the thing: it actually says this kind of things in the Bible, in particular, but I came to the conclusion that actually, I'm an adult and my wife's an adult, and we should kind of be mature, and we shouldn't need the government to, like, I shouldn't need to have the government force my wife at gunpoint, basically, to let me see my daughter, all right? I shouldn't have to spend many thousands of dollars that I don't have to pay an attorney to make sure that I can see my daughter. That's amazing, right? So that being said, no, I have not ever contacted an attorney to see if he could track down my wife, who got married like to her high school flame. I don't know, maybe they had an affair the whole time. I can't tell you. I don't know. Who's to say? But I mean, he was about to get married to somebody else until they decided that they were going to get married instead. All right, a very bizarre situation. But I found that out, and that is very bizarre, right? And to this day, I refuse, man. The whole system has totally let down everybody, to include my daughter, right? And so, no, I'm not going to a lawyer so that they can solve all my problems, because I've seen it before. I've seen all these ugly divorces. I've seen the legal proceedings. Guess what? A lawyer ain't going to do nothing to solve your problems, all right? If anything, they're going to complicate your life, and they're going to complicate your child's life, all right? And you can sugarcoat it however you want. That's what's going to happen. They're going to drive a rift between you and your family and you and your child. It's just what's going to happen, and it happens every time. So now I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, and in that my wife has purposefully disappeared. There is no way of finding her. All right, as far as I know of, without legal proceedings somehow, and I'm not going to go that route either. I've let it be known through letters and everything else. Just let me see my daughter. Can I see her? Can I visit? Can, even if you're there and you have to supervise me and stuff or whatever, just let me see my daughter and stuff. Is it really that hard to do? I've never abused my daughter. There's never been a chance of it. Could that be possible? That's where I'm at right now. It's like I'm not going to, in any way, legal or otherwise, make an attack on my wife, my ex-wife, if you will. I'm just not going to do it. It's not going to happen. If, for example, if I'm to attack legally my wife, do you understand that that would probably have a devastating effect on my relationship with my daughter? That by itself probably would, all right? Because my daughter loves my mom, loves her mom. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to have a devastating effect if I were to do that. And meanwhile, I'm just here waiting for somebody. I mean, it's not hard to figure out where I'm at, right? In fact, during the child custody thing, it was brought up. My YouTube channel was brought up, right? And it said that I was saying like wild things, and of course I really wasn't. But the judge doesn't need no proof, right? So I know that my wife could find me on the internet, and it would not take that much effort at all. I know that my wife could easily find me, easily, with the greatest of ease. She could find me, and she chooses not to. She chooses to stay disappeared, and it's incredible. It's really incredible. But I'm just sitting here waiting for her to figure out that maybe perhaps our daughter needs to see her father at some point in her life. And maybe that'll never happen. I really don't know. But obviously, in most cases, a child's going to figure out, okay, this is not my real father. Right? I could tell because there's no baby pictures with me and this other guy who you're married to now, who you're telling me probably is my father. But the thing is, there's no baby pictures. There's no legal documents to you know what I'm saying? Eventually, a child's going to figure it out. That this ain't my father. Where is my father? All right, so I imagine that'll probably happen. I'm about to run out of memory. There's not much more left of the story, but I'll have to see you on the other side in a very short video in which I wrap this all up and stuff. Man, I appreciate you. We're gonna wrap this all up on the other side.